Look, I don't know you. You don't know me necessarily. You may know me from my other projects, Young Dad Podcast, Patriarchy Principles, but you may not know that I live in Washington State. And I was raised in Washington State. I was raised in South Seattle, Burien, Washington, from the age of very, very little, like weeks old, up until I was about 10, 11 years old. And then then I went to northern Seattle, Bothell, Everett area, lived there for a few years. Then I left the state. I was gone around the corner, other states, other places, came back in 2020, and I've been in here in the Tri-Cities ever since. And I absolutely love Washington. I think Washington is a beautiful place. I was raised here. My kids are being raised here. I've met my wife here, and it's been an absolutely amazing place for me, for my family. But it's not anything it once was. And that's why I started this podcast, the Evergreen Report, because I want to dive into the pressing issues impacting Washington State residents. And I'm Jay, and I'm committed to bringing you in-depth analysis for the people, from the people. So let's jump into it today. We're going to briefly talk about some of the recent educational reforms in the state, their impact on the curriculum, and the role of parental rights in all these changes. So parents, buckle up, because there's two big wars happening in Washington State as I see it. The first one is there's a war on parent. Everything the state wants to do is to take our children away from us. They want our children. They're coming for our kids. They're doing everything they can to get them away from us. To the point to where we have Washington State Democrats saying shit like, "Oh well, if they're 13 and they're old enough to have sex, or old enough to get an abortion, or oh, schools, if it was something minor, or even if there's a crime against them, we don't have to tell you. Or if they're wanting to transition their gender and have gender mutilating services, then we don't have to tell you." Like, what world does that feel okay? I've never heard of any other place other than some extreme other countries that will do that. But what first world country, since when in America do parents have their rights taken away from them on this scale, at this level? It doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair, because absolutely not. It's not right. But we have to do something. But first, to do something, we have to know about the things that are going on. If we're just sitting back idly by, going day by day, we're not doing anything. We don't know what's going on in our own state. And we're too worried about everything going on the federal level. That's a big issue there. That's a lot of what our states love, especially our blue states here on the left coast, is they want to form everything. Oh, well, it's all this federal stuff, federal stuff. When in reality, the stuff that's happening in Olympia, Washington, at our state capitol, in the House and the Senate, on the floors, the bills that they're passing, the bills that they're trying to pass, have the major impact on us in our day-to-day lives. The stuff federally, yeah, that's all good and well, and it does what it does, and it is what it is. That's completely out of our control to an extent, but the things that are in our control are everything going on here at the state level. So that's why it's so important for us as parents, especially us as dads, the leaders of our family, to understand that and to find a way, and find ways, not a way, but find ways to fight back, right? Moms, dads, individuals, right? There's a war on us parents, and there's also a war on you, the ordinary person. Just to preface that, is they want to tax the hell out of us. They want to keep taxing the hell out of us. It's really sad what the state's become, right? It's become one of the most expensive, while also becoming one of the most unsafe, while having one of the highest homeless populations, while also, and the list goes on and on, right? We are unaffordable. Crime is all-time high. Like, just today's February 19th. I hope to post this today. First episode over on X exclusively. So hi X. Hope you guys are doing super well. But man, it's two people were shot in Tukwila on the bus. Supposed to be a gun-free zone. More people shot in Puget Sound. Again, because they were car prowlers and someone tried to stop them until they got shot. Two people have lost their life because of that. Man, it's so sad to see what this great, beautiful state that I grew up in has become. And a lot of it has been happening over time, but it really started happening in 2013. Just to give you guys some context here. So under former Governor Jay Inslee's legacy of failure, and I'm pulling this tweet directly from the Washington Senate Republicans, the Washington SRC, crime. In 2013, Washington was the 30th most unsafe in the U.S. So we were towards the bottom half, which is pretty good. Now we're first. Let that sink in. We were 30th. Now we're first. That's crazy to me. Housing, 12th most affordable. So we knew it was already expensive here, but it wasn't as bad. Now we're fourth. or fourth. Rent, 22nd most affordable. So we were kind of middle, right? No, second. No, second. Eight is where we started in 2013. Second now. Oh, and not to mention lack of accountability, missing $1.17 billion of taxpayer money and severe lack of transparency. What has our state done with our money? What has the state done with my money, your money? One of the things I would love to see as a reform, just in taxes in general, especially here in Washington State, where I want to elect on my taxes where I want my tax dollars to go. If I am an individual and I'm incredibly passionate about roads and fixing the road or improving our infrastructure, our energy, or maybe I'm passionate about schools, I want to be able to elect on my tax form, okay, for the next year, I want you to spend my money on schools. I want you to spend it on education. I want you to spend it on this, that, and the other, these percentages and whatnot. And then you get a receipt from how your money was spent. And if it was misspent, you feel that it should have gone to this bill or that person or this thing, then you get to, essentially argue that and claim, hey, this is not what I signed up for. My taxes say I wanted for this. That goes against what I wanted. And so then the state has to, rebate you, reimburse you some way, shape, or form. And yeah, so that's just one of the many things. Here in Washington State, we have some really big problems too. And I haven't even gotten into the bills and things I wanted to get into yet. I'm just trying to get more context of just how bad it's gotten. Homelessness crisis, drug crisis, crime crisis, plummeting education scores crisis, mental health crisis, parental notification crisis, women's sports crisis, and overspending crisis. What's the Democrats' response to all this? We need to change the state flag. We need to tax you guys for driving your cars. Hold on. Why does the state flag, why do we need a state flag redesign? What's the point? The point is distraction. That's the point here. The point is distraction. And thank you to Change Wash over on X as well, another great account for posting this a few days ago. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different crises going on in our state. But the solution is to change flag. And of course, I take a narrative street here and whatnot. I'll play devil's advocate. But all those things seem a lot more important than, taking care of the flag and redesigning the flag. Or how about this? Affordability ranks. These are as February 17th, and I'll tell you the sources pulled from each of these. The third highest gas prices in the United States, according to AAA state gas prices averages. The fourth highest grocery prices. Source is Fox 13 Seattle, the fourth most expensive state to buy groceries report, January 18th, 2024. The fourth most expensive housing. Source is Forbes, the 15 states with the highest average home price, 11/8/24. Seventh most costly childcare, and it feels like it's way higher. Source Bankrate study: care for one infant costs at least 10% of a family's yearly income in 48 states, but we're the seventh most costly. The third highest cost of living. Source: U.S. News and World Reports rankings states with lowest cost of living, May 7th, 2024. All these are recent. They're all within the last year, and it ranks us as we're the highest in all the wrong ways. I want to find something we're low at. I want to find something that's actually good. And there's some bills that are going out that people need to be aware of to counter some of these things in terms of affordability. House Bill 1338, we need to go and make our voices heard to oppose that. Triple the property tax growth limit from 1% to 3%. Don't want that. We don't want new taxes. We want no new taxes, period. We have enough. We have enough. You guys need to figure it out at the state level in Olympia. Call your representatives. Do the things you can do, because no new tax. We don't need more taxes. We have plenty of taxes. Figure out how to manage our money better. House Bill 1921 would impose a 2%, 2.6 cents per mile tax on top of current gas tax, which is absolutely lunacy. So they want you to opt into this program, put a tracker on your car, yearly odometer checks, and all these other things, right, for how much you're driving, and then tax you 2.6 cents per mile. So let's say you drive, let's say 15,000 miles per year. And if you drive 15,000 times 2.6, 39, oh wait, no, I can't do math. 15,000 times 0.026. That's that's an extra $390 of bills. Because you just have that laying around, right? You just have $400 to be to be taxed on to pay the state for driving your own car, which you already pay taxes on, which you already pay gas tax on, which you already pay all these other taxes and things on. How does that make any sense? Does that make sense? It makes no sense to me because you already are taxed when you buy your vehicle. You're paying taxes on, you're already paying for that vehicle every month. You're paying for the insurance, which you're taxed on. Which is absolutely so high already in Washington State as well. And then you're paying gas tax as well on that. What? Who thought that's a good idea? Because it's already so affordable here. House Bill 1480 would allow counties to enact a local real estate excise tax or a REIT, which would drive up housing costs because it's already so affordable to buy a house. There's already so much availability as it is, but let's make it more expensive. Let's make it more unattainable for people to buy a house because that's the solution here. That's the answer, right? House Bill 1320 would increase business and occupation tax, B&O tax rate, because businesses aren't already struggling enough, right? Businesses are struggling so much, and just trying to make it harder for small businesses to survive and thrive with not even mentioning how high the minimum wage already is. But yeah, let's make it harder for these businesses to thrive and whatnot. And while it doesn't say anything here, I don't see anything about taxing corporates. I don't see any corporation taxes. I could be wrong, but at least in these few that are highlighted here by the Washington House GOP, doesn't look good. And this is as of February 17th. So February 17th is February 19th. I'm hopefully going to post this today. I'm going to click edit post, see how this goes. I'm not sure how this is going to go. It's my first podcast of the Evergreen Report. It's going straight over on X. So I'm really excited to post it and then to get it out on YouTube and stuff then after. Let's see what else is going on. The average weekly cost of groceries compared to, so in Idaho, $281. Across the US is $355. 371 in California, 375 in Oregon, 402 in Washington, the ninth highest in the country for a week's worth of groceries on average. Average, crazy. When I moved here in 2020, I'm telling you, I remember the price. I have like flashbacks every time I go to the store. A thing of ground beef, like a little tube of ground beef, and we're not even gonna get into the origins and things like that right now. It was like $1.98 or something. Now it's like $4.98. So it's increased dramatically in price, is what I'm saying. Dramatic increases in just a few short years. I do want to shout out my local representative, April Connors. She is great. She's really great. So I'm going to use this to set up kind of talking about the education and things like that. So there's 3 bills that she highlighted, that the Washington House GOP highlighted on a post on X on February 16th. And there's some bills for the next 6 weeks of legislative session. So House Bill 1938 would remove George Washington from the state flag. Can it, get rid of that. No one cares. We don't need that. We don't want that. But we should support a sponsored by Representative Skylar Rue, which would make financial education instruction a graduation requirement for Washington high school students. And we'll get into that. I'm pretty sure that bill wouldn't take an impact until like 2031. So got some good lead time on that to make that a curriculum, change the requirements and whatnot. But having a generation of financially literate kids would change our state dramatically if you think about it. Because why wouldn't we want our students, especially if our students are in public school, like most of us parents have our kids in public school, why wouldn't we want them to learn some kind of financial literacy that we were never taught, but to be able to take that and use that as they go to college and into the workforce and doing all these other great, amazing things that they're going to do? Let's set them up for success. This is a no-brainer. It absolutely should fly through the legislation. House Bill 1121, sponsored by April, or Miss Connor, Representative Connors, and HB 1414, sponsored by Representative Stephanie McClintock, would give young people more opportunities to enter the workforce and gain valuable skills. So again, expanding our workforce, giving them more opportunities, get the young people working, give them an alternative to college and debt and all these things, right? Get them into the workforce, get them working with their hands, get them engaged, and all these things would be absolutely fantastic. I see no wrong with that. 10.2, sponsored by, again, Representative Connors, would provide down payment and closing cost assistance to workers in high demand fields like nurses, police officers, firefighters, as well as our active duty military members and veterans. Yeah, no brainer. Let's protect those who protect us every single day, who are there, who literally put their lives on the line for us. It's only getting more dangerous out there. I mean, we're already unsafe. I'm sure we can go from 1 to 0 from being the most unsafe. And that's sarcasm. Nobody actually wants that. But super important to just remember there. We want to be able to help here. And of course, there are more questions with these bills, like the down payment assistance. Where does that money come from to help these people? Is it a state or federal program? Where does the money come from? We have to know these things. And hopefully, some of these things actually make it to our ballots and we're able to actually vote on these and they don't try to twist the wording and things like that. There always are on these things. So, anyways, so getting into educational reform and just some things I want to talk about and touch on here. Let me find my right notes. Okay, so there's some curriculum changes that are under Senate Bill 5462, which was enacted in March 2024. So this is already enacted. It's already part, which mandates the inclusion of histories, contributions, and perspectives of the LGBTQ plus individuals and other historically marginalized groups in Washington State's public school curricula by October 1st, 2025. Again, parents, I understand. Let me just say this first. I understand the need for inclusivity and all this, but why do our kids need to learn about LGBTQ plus history and all this contributions of figures and their roles and whatnot? What does that do for our kids? I'm not saying that our schools are making our kids gay, but it's a charged curriculum with that clearly has an agenda when we spend very little to no time talking about actual American history, actual civil rights. Black History Month barely gets a moment in the sun anymore. It's so frustrating being a parent because the things that actually matter. Let's talk about World War II. Let's talk about World War One. Let's talk about history and the things that actually shaped our country that got us to where we are today. And let's actually understand the different perspectives on all these things. But nope, let's talk about LGBTQ plus history and there's the significant figures and their roles in history and civil rights activists, artists, and political leaders. Why do we need to know about that? Why don't we learn about World War II history? How do we get into that war? How do we avoid going back into that war? How do we get into World War One? What happened there? How do we avoid that thing? And of course, there's so many more. Vietnam, 9/11, the Iraq War. There's so many other wars and things like that that our kids could be learning about and probably need to learn about to understand the world as a whole. Or let's replace this curriculum with actually something our kids will use and need. Financial literacy, life skills, social skills, workforce skills, practical skills. Why not replace it with that? Or let's take the money, the things we're doing with this, and put it back into. Let's keep this energy, but just make it to improve our literacy, improve our kids' education as a whole. There's so much more we can do with this, but this is where our government decides to focus. So a little bit more about this. The curriculum will cover pivotal events affecting LGBTQ plus communities, including the Stonewall riots and the fight for marriage equality. And there'll be discussions will highlight how these LGBTQ plus identities intersect with other aspects like race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status, fostering a comprehensive understanding of diversity. We don't, hopefully, with the new federal mandates and whatnot, this very highly DEI based curriculum will get removed and this won't actually make it to schools. There's a lot of pushback across the state on this, especially here locally where I am. So if you're in Benton Franklin counties, there's a lot of pushback locally. Your local Republican Party is pushing back. They don't want this. So previously, the inclusion of LGBTQ plus topics varied across the districts, leading to inconsistencies with Senate Bill 5462. All public schools are required to adopt inclusive curricula, ensuring uniformity statewide. This shift aims to create a more supportive environment for LGBTQ students, potentially reducing instances of bullying and improving mental health outcomes. See, I see it's going to do the opposite. It's gonna force more bullying and more attention on these kids, and I don't see it going well. There are some things to consider here, right? The bill does not allocate any funding. So listen to this. So they want all schools in the state, right, to take this up, to take this mantle up, and to introduce this curriculum into their schools and all this stuff, right? But there's no specific funding for developing new instructional materials, leaving each district responsible for integrating these topics into existing curriculum. While all the districts, nearly every district in our state, I believe, is already running at some kind of deficit and can't afford to do that. So our state said, here's this, we're going to pass this, you guys figure it out after that. And there's many school boards across the state and communities that have expressed concerns, citing potential conflicts with local values and belief. For instance, the Prosser School District, very close by, passed a resolution opposing the bill, reflecting the contentious nature of its implementation. Shout out to the Prosser School District because that's a school district that's really close to where I am. And so shout out to them. I know other local districts that in our like predominantly red areas of our state over here in Eastern Washington, outside of like Spokane County, fighting back. Good. Need to fight back. Second one here is understanding the parental bill of rights and ESSB 5181. So the parental bill of rights. So like I mentioned at the top and talked about a lot, they are coming for our kids. They want to change. They want to take our kids away from us, or they want to co-parent our kids with us, where they can't love your kids. They don't know your kids. They don't know your family. They don't know your beliefs, but they want you to conform to them, right? They don't want to conform to you and help you and support you where you're at. They want you to 100% conform to them and to do what the state wants you to do with your kid. They want you to do with your kids what they want you to do with your kids, which there's a big conflict there initially, but the Parental Bill of Rights, established through Initiative 2081 and 2024, outlined specific rights for parents regarding their children's public education. These rights included access to educational materials, notification of certain school activities, and involvement in educational decisions. Which is, doesn't that just come with being a parent? Shouldn't you just have that anyways? Of the original initiative, parents could inspect and review their child's educational records within 10 days of a request. So that's the original initiative. Notification requirements. Schools were required to provide immediate notification to parents concerning non-emergency medical services or if the child was involved in a criminal incident on school property. So the schools have to report. They have to communicate. That's currently where the current Bill of Rights as of 2024 stands. So again, you have to know what you're talking. You have to know what's going on. You have to know. If you don't know, school can tell you whatever they want. And as they often do, I work with a lot of schools, and they often tell parents whatever they want to tell them to A, get them off their backs, or A, to not, have to actually step up and do, their job. Because they're very much aware that parents are not aware of the things going on at the state level. But in February 2025, the state Senate passed ESSB 5181 to align with the Parental Bill of Rights with existing state laws. So they passed it to now align with existing state laws. Primarily, and that is from Fox 13 Seattle as a source here. Previously on the last bill, there was my sources there are KPQ, South Seattle Emerald, and the Northwest Public Broadcasting, talking about the LGBTQ curriculum and whatnot. But this one's coming from Fox 13 Seattle. So the significant changes that passed with this medical services notification, and this is where my first big issue with this is, the amendment removes the requirement for schools to notify parents about non-emergency medical services or treatments provided to students. So if my child goes to school and says, I think there's going to be retaliation, even if there's not going to be, right? If they just say, and they want, non-emergency medical services, aka gender affirming care, that's what this really means. That's the biggest part of it here. But every medical decision a child's making for themselves should also be consulted with the parents. Every single one of them, until they're 18, because they don't have fully developed brains. Heck, we don't have fully developed brains as humans. We're 25. So what makes it? Who thinks that a child can make these decisions for themselves without any parental input? Please raise your hand if you think that's a good idea. If you think that's possible. Because I know my kids, and I don't want them making medical decisions for themselves. Because they're not educated. They don't understand these things, right? They get these ideas in their head, and they don't fully understand the magnitude of them, right? They don't get it. This amendment removes the requirement for schools to notify parents about non-emergency medical services or treatments provided to students. This change aims to protect students' privacy, which, if they're a student and they're under 18, I'm sorry, as a parent, my kids don't have that much privacy under my roof and under my care, right? Because why would a student need this privacy from their own parents? Unless there's actually legitimately an investigated threat of harm, and it's known and it's been investigated by CPS and the proper people, then absolutely should not be protecting the student's privacy, especially in sensitive areas like reproductive health and gender identity. Parents should absolutely know these things about their kids. They should absolutely know if they're sending Susie to school and Susie's actually Sam at school, but school never tells them, kind of thing. Like, keep it a secret from my parents. Teachers, do not keep secrets of your students from the parents. That's wrong. That is so wrong. If you are a parent, do you want your kids' teachers keeping secrets from you? That's wrong. That's just morally wrong. In my eyes, at least, and many, many other eyes. Criminal activity notification. The definition of incidents requiring parental notification has been refined, which is wrong. Schools must inform parents within a reasonable time, not exceeding 72 hours. So they have up to 72 hours, so they have up to 3 business days, essentially, which is hilarious if their child is involved in criminal activity on school property during school hours. So if they're involved in criminal activity, not if a crime happens to them, if they're involved in criminal activity during school hours, then they have 3 days to report it. It happened a few days ago, and it's very lackadaisical. Like, no, if my kid's getting into some shit or something's happening to them or they're doing something, I need to know right away as a parent because I need to address that. Because obviously you are not, and you're not going to, and that's not your job because you're not my kid's parent. I'm the parent, and if they're doing something, you need to tell me right away. No 72-hour bullshit. So giving teachers and staff that much wiggle room is 100% unacceptable. So supporters argue, like I'm arguing here, that these amendments protect students' and I'm arguing against these. Protect students' confidentiality and align school policies with state laws that grant minors certain healthcare rights without parental consent. There should be no healthcare rights without parental consent. That's an issue in itself that we even have that at the state level. That we have Washington State Democrats saying, well, if your 13-year-old daughter is old enough to have sex, she's old enough to choose if she has abortion, and a school medical provider should not have to let you know. Absolute lunacy there. Absolute lunacy. Like, minors shouldn't have these rights. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to take away from our children, but our children shouldn't have these rights, and parents shouldn't be just on the sidelines saying, oh, cool, I can't do anything about this, and feel like they're handcuffed when it comes to their own child. That's so wrong. The state does not parent my children. So, and I'm contending here with many other critics that these changes diminish parental oversight and involvement in critical aspects of our children's well-being because it absolutely does. We need to be involved in our children's oversight. We need to be involved in their development. We need to be involved in their healthcare. We need to be involved in all these things that they're trying to take away from us. And it's absolute bullshit that our state thinks, oh, yeah, it's fine. We're just going to pass all these things and take these rights away from you, and you can't do anything about it because we have a majority. We have now passed a simple majority law so that we can pretty much do whatever we want. And there's no fight, there's no arguing on the floor anymore. It's just like, if we want to do it, we're going to do it. If we don't, then we're not going to, kind of thing. And it's absolute insanity. So on students, let's look at this couple things. Let's do some in-depth analysis on these two things. The inclusive curriculum benefits. Research does indicate that the representation of diverse groups in schools can enhance students' engagement and academic performance. But our academic performance is already so low. Let's focus on the basic: math, science, reading, ELA, and those things before we try to add in these woke curriculums. For LGBT students, seeing themselves reflected in the studies can foster a sense of belonging and reduce feelings of isolation. I'm sorry. If this is in elementary schools, I strongly believe that an elementary school student is not old enough to firmly believe that they're gay or not. I'm sorry. I just don't see that as a thing. I see that as a narrative pushed on them from somewhere else that's not school. From being pushed on them that they are this way, that they like boys or they like girls, that they're a girl, kind of thing. I don't see this as something legitimate. Like, I feel like someone doesn't know. The kids are confused. They're trying to learn. They don't have fully developed brains. Like, doesn't that stuff matter here in all this? Like, let's let them learn, and I don't want to say let them experiment, but let them learn. Okay, let them have some time as they get older to see, okay, maybe I actually do like girls from a girl. Maybe I actually do like boys from a gay. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being gay or lesbian or bisexual or anything, but kids, they don't need this. They don't need to see this representation in their books and on their desk and in their classrooms, because it's just going to add more questions and conversation that parents shouldn't have to be having with their elementary students or middle school students, or even, maybe high school is a more age appropriate range for that. But elementary, middle school, and younger, they got enough going on. We don't need to add more onto that because they're already confused enough about who they are. So I don't think it's really there to foster that sense of belonging. I think that's a nice way of saying it, that it's going to reduce these feelings of isolation too, when in reality, that's not the case. It's to push a narrative, to push this woke curriculum, this woke agenda onto our kids, and to take our kids from us. Privacy and the parental involvement. Allowing students to access certain medical services without parental notification may encourage them. So it's saying it can encourage them to seek necessary care they might otherwise avoid due to fear of disclosure. But however, if they're afraid, if they're able to just get medical care without parental notification, that's so wrong. It's just so wrong on so many levels. If you see that as okay, I wanna talk to you, and I seriously wanna know why you think that's okay for your child. Think of it if this is your child doing this, and you don't get notified at all. I would be pissed off at the school. I'd be pissed off at my kid. I would be pissed off in general at a system that allows for that. That's wrong. And I hope you would also be pissed off as well, because it is wrong. However, it also raises concerns that parents being excluded from significant health related decisions affecting their children. If you're excluded from your son now becoming your daughter and having puberty blockers and mutilations and things like that, that's wrong. It, it's just so wrong on so many levels. Parents should not be excluded from these major decisions affecting their kids. It's not up to the state. It's not up to the school. It's not up to the teachers. It's up to the fucking parents. It's up to us to take on that mantle. Nobody else. Nobody else can take on that mantle for you. You are the parent. You are in charge of your kids, their health, and their future. Nobody else, not the state, not the government. That's major overreach in this area here. I'm sorry, it's major, major overreach, and it's not okay. Especially them putting in this parental bill of rights and then amending it a year later. Terrible. They want our kids, and it's so icky. We should be asking, why do they want our kids so bad? Why? Why do they want our kids so bad? I would encourage every dad on here to go and read the book Point Man. It's an absolutely fantastic book. I think it'll provide you guys a lot of answers with that reason why. Let's see here. On families, so some of the impact here on families. I want to get through this kind of quick. Parental trust and communication. The amendments may lead to tensions between parents and schools, with some parents feeling their rights are being undermined, because they 100% are. The contention that this is going to lead to, the fights that this is going to cause, the fallout from this is get more impactful because they're breaking up families. They're tearing apart parent-child relationships that are needed for lifelong success. But the state's like, no, we're going to cut that off and take over here. But then the state's going to be gone, right? Leadership changes. Government's not there. Parents are going to be there at the end of the day. They need to be involved. Open communication and clear policies are essential to navigate these changes effectively. But even within your own family, everyone's family has specific cultural, religious beliefs and may find the inclusion of certain topics in curriculum challenging, potentially leading to conflicts with educational institutions. Which is why it's important to say something. But it's also so important here as a parent. The best way you can fight back is by educating your kid, by sharing your values, by teaching them, by having these conversations starting at a very young age appropriately, to help them understand, hey, there's only two genders, there's only this, there's only that. This is what this looks like. This is right, this is wrong, and having those conversations. Because if they don't learn it from you, they're gonna learn it from school, and they're gonna think that's right and wrong. If they don't learn what actual right and wrong is from you as a parent, and if you don't know, I'm glad you're here listening, that you can understand these things, right? Right and wrong is very simple. Government shouldn't be the one raising your kids. You should be the parent. You need to be teaching your kids about your culture, about your religion, about your beliefs, about your values, so that they carry those with them, so that they're able to speak up and challenge it when it comes back to them, so that they are ready, so that they are prepared to fight back themselves. But you also need to arm yourself and be ready as well. On educational institutions, I feel so bad for the schools. I feel so bad for the innocent teachers who don't believe this stuff, who don't want to teach this stuff, who may agree with me, who may hear this and be like, yeah, no, I don't want to teach that. Because my students already struggle with reading, writing, math, science, history. They already struggle with the basics. This isn't going to help them. And if you're those teachers, I want to hear from you. Please, I want to hear from you. Message, comment, anything like that. Please, I want to hear from you. Be like Prosser. Be like the Prosser School District, please. And fight back. Fight back. Schools must develop or source appropriate materials. Just the fact that the schools don't have funding for this, but they have to figure it out themselves, is insane in itself. That's so wrong in itself, because their schools are already struggling enough. They got enough on their plates and they're already struggling. Their resources are already so thin. So you're going to strain them even more by creating new curriculum requirements and making them come up with this curriculum. There is no curriculum. They have to figure out how to include it. So it's just so frustrating. Administrators need to balance compliance with state laws, respect for student privacy, and the desire for parental involvement, necessitating careful policy revisions and staff training. So there's going to be policy adjustment here. So it's just more on the schools. So educators, I'm so sorry that our state doesn't see you as how valuable you are and how important you are in shaping our kids' future. Please fight back. Go to your school district, go to your meetings and say, hey, we need to fight back against this because I'm not teaching this in my classroom. Fight back. If you're a parent, talk to your teachers, ask them to speak up, ask them, advocate for your kids, advocate for other kids, advocate for your families, advocate for you and yours. Please, I'm begging you, advocate for you and yours. last thing here, beyond these two, beyond SB 5462 and ESSB 5148, other bills such as House Bill 1879, which proposes renaming the Indigenous History curriculum after the late Senator John McCoy, and SB 5804, aiming to equip all public schools with opiate overdose treatment, reflect ongoing efforts to address diverse educational needs and student safety in Washington State. And I like these two bills. I don't see anything wrong, and the Indigenous tribes do support it. Rename the curriculum after Senator John McCoy, and it's just a name change, but there's bigger issues at hand, right? Like we talked about. But also to equip all public schools with opiate overdose treatment. Our kids are being impacted by drugs and opioids, and it's so important that our schools are well prepared to handle those. It sucks that we're here, but let's at least do everything we can to save our children. So all the legislative things that I talked about today in Washington State education. And there's so much more that I'm going to get into here in future episodes because I have a list. I have a big, long list of bills that I want to go through. I just want to go through bill by bill, talk about it, give my take on it and whatnot, and why you should care and help you be aware of it. It's a big, 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 long list. I'm telling you, it's massive. It's huge. It's huge. Anyways, sorry, I make a joke there. These changes in the state system underscore a complex interplay between fostering inclusivity, protecting students' rights, and maintaining parental involvement. But there is no balance here. They are trying to take our kids, push woke agendas onto them. And as these policies are implemented, continuous dialogue among educators, parents, students, and policymakers will be critical to address concerns and ensure that the educational environment supports all stakeholders effectively. So, with that, I hope you enjoyed the very first episode of the Evergreen Report. I'm your host, Jay, and I hope you found this educational, impactful, and you're going to do something. If you're wanting to reach out and do more, I encourage everyone to go to the state website, find these bills. I will try to put all the links in the show notes here. I can't guarantee it, but I encourage you to go and find ways to make your voices heard. I encourage you to find your local parties and go and get involved. And yeah, this has been really fun. I'm really excited for this new journey. I still, of course, host the Young Dad podcast. I still, of course, host Patriarchy Principles, but this Evergreen Report is something that came to my mind as something that we needed more here at the local level and more things that we need to be talked about. Because yes, we can talk about it on X all day, but those things get lost, and it's so important to have a platform and use my microphone to talk to people, talk to people around me, talk to people in my community, in my state, and to be able to make an impact there. So I hope this has been impactful. I hope you will take something away from this, and I hope that if you have questions, you'll drop them in the comments. I hope if you have insights or ideas or anything like that, I hope you'll drop them as well, because it's really important that we talk about all these issues, and we talk and comment, subscribe, follow all the things that you're supposed to do. X will probably be where I'm most active because it's the least restrictive environment for content like this that pushes against the narrative. So I will primarily be on X with this content, and YouTube, probably Rumble as well. So X, YouTube, Rumble, find more there. And until next time, I will see you right here back on the Evergreen Report.